Solidago, commonly called goldenrods, is a genus of about 100 to 120 species of flowering plants in the aster family, Asteraceae. Most are herbaceous perennial species found in open areas such as meadows, prairies, and savannas. They are mostly native to North America, including Mexico. A few species are native to South America and Eurasia. Some American species have also been introduced into Europe and other parts of the world. Description: Solidago species are perennials growing from woody cordices or rhizomes. Their stems ranges from decumbent to ascending or erect, with a range of heights going from 5 cm to over a meter. Most species are unbranched, but some do display branching in the upper part of the plant. Both leaves and stems vary from glabrous to various forms of pubescence. In some species, the basal leaves are shed before flowering. The leaf margins are most commonly entire, but often display heavier serration. Some leaves may display trinerved venation rather than the pinnate venation usual across Asteraceae. The flower heads are usually of the radiate type but sometimes discoid. Only ray florets are female, others are male, hermaphroditic or entire sterile. Head involucres are campanulate as cylindric or attenuate. Floret corollas are usually yellow, but white in the ray florets of a few species. They are typically hairless. Heads usually include between 2 and 35 disc florets, but in some species this may go up to 60. Filaments are inserted closer to the base of the corolla than its middle. Numerous heads are usually grouped in complex compound inflorescences where heads are arranged in multiple racemes, panicles, corymbs, or secundar rays. Solidago cypselae are narrowly obconic to cylindrical in shape, and they are sometimes somewhat compressed. They have 8 to 10 ribs usually and are hairless or moderately hispid. The pappus is very big with barbellate bristles. The many goldenrod species can be difficult to distinguish, due to their similar bright, golden yellow flower heads that bloom in late summer. Propagation is by wind-disseminated seeds or by spreading underground rhizomes which can form colonies of vegetative clones of a single plant. They are mostly short-day plants and bloom in late summer and early fall. Some species produce abundant nectar when moisture is plentiful, or when the weather is warm and sunny. Use in cultivation, young goldenrod leaves are edible. Native Americans used the seeds of some species for food. Herbal teas are sometimes made with goldenrod. Goldenrod is often unfairly blamed for causing hay fever in humans. The pollen causing these allergy problems is mainly produced by ragweed, blooming at the same time as the goldenrod, but is wind-pollinated. Goldenrod pollen is too heavy and sticky to be blown far from the flowers, and is thus mainly pollinated by insects. Frequent handling of goldenrod and other flowers, however, can cause allergic reactions, sometimes irritating enough to force florists to change occupation. Goldenrods are attractive sources of nectar for bees, flies, wasps, and butterflies. Honey from goldenrods often is dark and strong due to admixtures of other nectars. However, when honey flow is strong, a light, spicy-tasting monofloral honey is produced. While the bees are ripening the honey produced from goldenrods, it has a rank odor and taste, but finished honey is much milder. Goldenrods are, in some places, held as a sign of good luck or good fortune. They are considered weeds by many in North America, but they are prized as garden plants in Europe, where British gardeners adopted goldenrod long before Americans did as garden subjects. Goldenrod only began to gain some acceptance in American gardening during the 1980s. They have become invasive species in other parts of the world, including China. Solidago canadensis, which was introduced as a garden plant in Central Europe, has become common in the wild, and in Germany is considered an invasive species that displaces native vegetation from its natural habitat. Goldenrod species are used as a food source by the larvae of many Lepidoptera species. The invading larva may induce the plant to form a bulbous tissue mass called a gall around it, upon which the larva then feeds. Various parasitoid wasps find these galls and lay eggs in the larvae, penetrating the bulb with their ovipositors. Woodpeckers are known to peck open the galls and eat the insects in the center. Cultivated species cultivated goldenrods include S. bicolor, S. caesea, S. canadensis, S. cutillary, S. ridula, S. rigida, S. shorter, and S. virgorea. A number of cultivars have been selected, including several of hybrid origin. A putative hybrid with aster, known as a Solidago, is less unruly, with pale yellow flowers, equally suitable for dried arrangements. Molecular and other evidence points to a Solidago being a hybrid of Solidago tarmacoides and Solidago canadensis, the former now in Solidago, but likely the aster in question. The cultivars Golden Mosa and S.A. Luteus lemur have gained the Royal Horticultural Society's Award of Garden Merit. Industrial use Inventor Thomas Edison experimented with goldenrod to produce rubber, which it contains naturally. Edison created a fertilization and cultivation process to maximize the rubber content in each plant. His experiments produced a 12-foot-tall plant that yielded as much as 12% rubber. The tires on the Model T given to him by his friend Henry Ford were made from goldenrod. Like George Washington Carver, Henry Ford was deeply interested in the regenerative properties of soil and the potential of alternative crops such as peanuts and soybeans to produce plastics, paint, fuel and other products. Ford had long believed that the world would eventually need a substitute for gasoline, and supported the production of ethanol as an alternative fuel. In 1942, he would showcase a car with a lightweight plastic body made from soybeans. Ford and Carver began corresponding via letter in 1934, and their mutual admiration deepened after George Washington Carver made a visit to Michigan in 1937. As Douglas Brinkley writes in Wheels for the World, his history of Ford, the automaker donated generously to the Tuskegee Institute, helping finance Carver's experiments, and Carver in turn spent a period of time helping to oversee crops at the Ford plantation in Wayne, Georgia. By the time World War II began, Ford had made repeated journeys to Tuskegee to convince George Washington Carver to come to Dearborn and help him develop a synthetic rubber to help compensate for wartime rubber shortages. Carver arrived on July 19, 1942, and set up a laboratory in an old waterworks building in Dearborn. He and Ford experimented with different crops, including sweet potatoes and dandelions, eventually devising a way to make the rubber substitute from goldenrod, a plant wheat commercially viable. Carver died in January 1943, Ford in April 1947, but the relationship between their two institutions continued to flourish. As recently as the late 1990s, Ford awarded grants of $4 million over 2 years to the George Washington Carver School at Tuskegee. Extensive process development was conducted during World War II to commercialize goldenrod as a source of rubber. The rubber is only contained in the leaves, not the stems or blooms. Typical rubber content of the leaves is 7%. The resulting rubber is of low molecular weight, resulting in an excessively tacky compound with poor tensile properties. Traditional medicine Solidago virgorea is used in a traditional kidney tonic by practitioners of herbal medicine to counter inflammation and irritation caused by bacterial infections or kidney stones. Goldenrod has also been used as part of a tincture to aid in cleansing of the kidney or bladder during a healing fast, in conjunction with potassium broth and specific juices. Native Americans chewed the leaves to relieve sore throats and chewed the roots to relieve toothaches. Cultural significance: the goldenrod is the state flower of the U.S. states of Kentucky and Nebraska. Goldenrod was recently named the state wildflower of South Carolina. The sweet goldenrod is the state herb of Delaware. Goldenrod was the state flower of Alabama, but it was later rejected in favor of the camellia. In the Midwestern United States, the blooming of goldenrods in August is a reminder that it will soon be time for children to go back to school after summer vacation. Diversity. Accepted species: Solidago albipulaceae L. Brauner Euro white-hair goldenrod, Solidago altiplanites CES Taylor and R.J. Taylor a Euro high plains goldenrod, Solidago altissima L.A. Euro Canada goldenrod, late goldenrod, Solidago amplexicaulis Tor. And A. Gray, Solidago renicola biarquina and Crowler Euro southern racemose goldenrod, Solidago argentinensis La cubed Pes Lapetes, Retamara A and Semple, Solidago arguta et. A Euro-Atlantic goldenrod, forest goldenrod, toothed goldenrod, cut-leaf goldenrod, Solidago aureus sprang. Solidago auriculata shuttle X Blake a Euro-eared goldenrod, clasping goldenrod, Solidago bartramiana fernald, Solidago bicolor LA Euro-white goldenrod, silver rod, Solidago brachyphylla chapman a Euro-Dixie goldenrod, Solidago brendii semple, Solidago buckler tor. And grey a Euro-Buckley's goldenrod, Solidago caesia LA Euro-wreath goldenrod, axillary goldenrod, Lewiston goldenrod, woodland goldenrod, Solidago calcicola fernald, Solidago californica nut. Solidago canadensis L. Canada goldenrod, Canadian goldenrod, common goldenrod, Solidago chilensis mien, Solidago compacta terch. Solidago confnis A. Gray, Solidago corina HS Pack, Solidago curtisia tor. And A. Gray a Euro-mountain decumbent goldenrod, Curtis goldenrod, Solidago de Eurica Kitagawa x Jews Bzuk, Solidago de Carens Luriro, Solidago delicatula smaller Euro elm leaf goldenrod, smooth elm leaf goldenrod, Solidago drummondii tor. And A. Gray. A Euro Drummond's goldenrod, Solidago durangensis gl nesum, Solidago il-1 nut. A Euro West Coast goldenrod, Cascade Canada goldenrod, Solidago erecta nut. A Euro showy goldenrod, slender goldenrod, Solidago ericameriodes gl nesum, Solidago forcibus Wiebolt a Euro gorge goldenrod, Solidago fistulus P. mill. A Euro pine barren goldenrod, Solidago flexicornis L. A Euro zigzag goldenrod, broadleaf goldenrod, Solidago gattinga chapman a Euro gattingus goldenrod, Solidago giganteet. A Euro giant goldenrod, tall goldenrod, early goldenrod, smooth goldenrod, Solidago glabra desf. Solidago glormrata michx. A Euro clustered goldenrod, skunk goldenrod, Solidago gyrodonis a Gray a Euro gyrados goldenrod, Solidago gypsophila gl nesum, Solidago antoniorum gl nesum, Solidago hispida mul xwild. A Euro hairy goldenrod, Solidago hortonii tor. And A. Gray x A. Gray a Euro Horton's goldenrod, Solidago humilis mill. Solidago inornata lunal, Solidago Julii gl nesum a Euro Julia's goldenrod, Solidago junciet. A Euro early goldenrod, Solidago crolla semple a Euro Kral's goldenrod, Solidago chiastanica Jews. Solidago curalensis Jews. Solidago lancifolia tor. And A. Gray a Euro lance leaf goldenrod, Solidago latticimifolia P. mill. A Euro Elliott's goldenrod, Solidago Leavenworth tor. And A. Gray a Euro Leavenworth's goldenrod, Solidago Eocarpa DC in DC and ADC. A Euro Cutler's alpine goldenrod, Solidago leopida DC. A Euro Western Canada goldenrod, Solidago ludovicianus small a Euro Louisiana goldenrod, Solidago macrophylla Persia Euro large leaf goldenrod, Solidago mcpharpha gl nesum, Solidago microglossa DC. Solidago minuta simacite arm. Solidago missouriensis nut. A Euro Missouri goldenrod, prairie goldenrod, Tomy's goldenrod, Solidago mollis barrel. A Euro velvety goldenrod, soft goldenrod, woolly goldenrod, Solidago multiradiata et. A Euro Rocky Mountain goldenrod, alpine goldenrod, northern goldenrod, Monire goldenrod, Solidago nana nut. A Euro baby goldenrod, dwarf goldenrod, grey goldenrod, Solidago nemorilis et. A Euro grey goldenrod, die-sweet goldenrod, oldfield goldenrod, Solidago nightda tor. And A. Gray a Euro shiny goldenrod, Solidago adora et. A Euro anise-scented goldenrod, sweet goldenrod, fragrant goldenrod, Solidago ohioensis redel a Euro Ohio goldenrod, Solidago orientalis gl nesum, Solidago auokicensis CES Taylor and R.J. Taylor a Euro Alashita Mountains goldenrod, Solidago avata friesna, Solidago pacifica Jews Bzuk, Solidago paniculata DC. Solidago patagonica Phil. Solidago patula mu xwild. A Euro roundleaf goldenrod, rawleaf goldenrod, Solidago peciolaris et. A Euro downy ragged goldenrod, Solidago perinatalunal, Solidago pilosamil. Solidago pinetorum small. A Euro smalls goldenrod, Solidago plumosa small. A Euro plumed goldenrod, plumose goldenrod, Yadkin river goldenrod, Solidago pringlay finald, Solidago procera aton, Solidago tarmacoides b bovin. A Euro white flat-top goldenrod, upland white aster, Solidago puberula nut. A Euro downy goldenrod, Solidago pulchra small. A Euro Carolina goldenrod, Solidago radula nut. A Euro western rough goldenrod, Solidago rigula frank x redal. A Euro redal's goldenrod, Solidago rigida la. Euro rigid goldenrod, stiff leaf goldenrod, Solidago ronensis porter. A Euro roan mountain goldenrod, Solidago rugosa p. mill. A Euro wrinkle leaf goldenrod, rough stemmed goldenrod, Solidago rupestris raff. A Euro rock goldenrod, Solidago satanica lunal, Solidago cyphala steel. A Euro shadowy goldenrod, Solidago sempervirens la. Euro seaside goldenrod, saltmarsh goldenrod, Solidago serotinarets. Solidago shorter and a grey. A Euro shorts goldenrod, Solidago simplex kunth, Mount Albert goldenrod, sticky goldenrod, Solidago spifulata dc. A Euro coast goldenrod, Solidago speciosa nut. A Euro showy goldenrod, noble goldenrod, Solidago spectabilis. A grey. A Euro Nevada goldenrod, basin goldenrod, Solidago spicillata raff. A Euro autumn goldenrod, false goldenrod, Solidago spitalmea ma curtis. A Euro blue ridge goldenrod, skunk goldenrod, Solidago sporaifolia fish x herder, Solidago squarrosa nut. A Euro stout goldenrod, Solidago stricta et. A Euro 1 goldenrod, willow leaf goldenrod, Solidago tarda mac. A Euro Atlantic goldenrod, Solidago tortifolia L. A Euro twist leaf goldenrod, Solidago uliginosa nut. A Euro bog goldenrod, fall goldenrod, Solidago ulmifolia mu xwild. A Euro elm leaf goldenrod, Solidago velutina dc. A Euro thren of goldenrod, velvety goldenrod, Solidago verna ma curtis. A Euro spring flowering goldenrod, Solidago velocicarpa la blonde. A Euro glandular 1 goldenrod, hairy seed goldenrod, Solidago virgoria la. Euro European goldenrod, Solidago right a grey. A Euro Wright's goldenrod, Solidago Yokocyanimakino, natural hybrids, Solidago, Asperula desf. Solidago, Bedra bovin, Solidago, Calcicola finalda. Euro limestone goldenrod, Solidago, Erskine bovin, Solidago, Avata friesna, Solidago, Ulmusanesia friesna, formerly included. Numerous species formerly considered members of Solidago are now regarded as better suited to other genera, including Brintonia, Dualdia, Euthymia, Gundlarchia, Inula, Jacobae, Leptostoma, Illyria, Oligoneuron, Psyardia, Senecio, Sphafnetica, Symphyotrichum, Trixis, Xylothymia. References. External links, Goldenrod identification. Andes Northern Ontario Wildflowers. Goldenrods Group. Ontario Wildflowers. Solidago, Goldenrods. Asteraceae Lab. University of Waterloo.